Welcome to the CMA Ontario Road to Independence virtual sessions. These sessions are presented by Slate Music with the support of Ontario Creates. We're thrilled to have you here and excited about the incredible conversations we have lined up for you. We'll be sharing our best tips on career development, songwriting, publishing, and so much more. If you like this video, be sure to subscribe, share with a friend, and hit that like button. Thanks for watching.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Mark My Words, the craft of lyric writing. I'm Victoria Banks. I'm a Canadian singer-songwriter who has been living in Nashville for 23 years, working as a staff songwriter for various publishing companies on Music Row. And I'm now an instructor of songwriting at Belmont University here in Nashville. So I wanted to put together a presentation for you that was basically summarizing some of the tips and tricks and tools that you can use to improve your lyric writing. I know many of us feel like the lyric is the most difficult part of the song. There's a real craft to it, and that's one of the things I love about being here in Nashville in the middle of all this amazing songwriting is the chance to learn from some wizards of the craft to really grasp what all the different tools are that they use to make a lyric come across. So of course a song lyric is very different from a poem, and usually when we start out writing songs we're not quite sure about the difference, but we're working within a really specific structure and with a really specific set of rules about where the rhymes fall. The prosody is very important, which is the way that the vowel sounds and the language fits with the melody. And you also really only have maybe 8 to 16 lines of lyric to tell the entire story of what you want to say. So it's the elevator speech on steroids. You don't get to give footnotes. You don't get to give a long introduction about what the song is about. Maybe when you're on stage you get to do that, but the song really has to stand alone, and it has to grab people's attention. And in today's world, let's face it, people have a very short attention span, and they're easily pulled out of their thought process. So you want to create a song that is an experience that pulls people in and holds them there for the length of time that the song takes, which is usually about 3 minutes nowadays. It used to be when I started out 20 years ago, we would aim for 3:30, maybe even 3:40. But now about the 3-minute mark is what we're aiming for a commercial song. So what I wanted to do today is I'm going to break down some contemporary song elements and structure to start with, which might be a review for some of you. But then I'm going to get into some really specific lyrical tools that you can use to make each line be the best it can possibly be in your song. Now, a caveat to this is that it can feel really overwhelming when you get a bunch of information thrown at you like this about how to do something that requires a craft. And don't let it paralyze you. The idea is not for you to take all this and go, oh my gosh, the next thing that I write has to be, every line has to have this in it. No, what I'm trying to do is point out to you with this some things that you can listen to, listen for, and become aware of in the songs that you're listening to, in the music that you're listening to. And as you're listening to the radio, as you're listening to your favorite songs, just notice when you see these little things that I'll be teaching you today. And when you start noticing them, you'll start incorporating them, internalizing them into your own songwriting process. And that's when they'll start coming back out. So don't let this overwhelm you is all I want to say to start. So anyhow, we're going to start somewhere pretty basic here. We're going to start with the basic song elements, the basic song structure. So the very first thing we have, obviously, is the first verse. That is walking the listener in the door. So this is where you are giving the setting for what's happening in the song, the time, the place, the people who are involved. You are giving detail. So a great example of that is in the classic The Gambler, written by Don Schlitz and recorded by Kenny Rogers. On a warm summer's evening, on a train bound for nowhere, I met up with the gambler We were both too tired to sleep. So first couple lines, it's like the beginning of a story, right? Now, they don't always have to be the beginning of a story, but it does have to ground the listener in what's going on and show them a little bit about what to expect from the song. Then, some songs have this and some songs don't. We have the pre-chorus, also known as the pre, or the channel. In Nashville, we call it the channel, although elsewhere in the world, usually it's known as the pre-chorus. Definitely in pop music it is. The pre-chorus is what walks the listener to the chorus. So if your verse just doesn't quite get them there, either lyrically or melodically, then you can put a pre-chorus in to take them there. And one of my favorite pre-choruses has this beautiful melodic transition. It's Katy Perry's Firework. So the verses are, do you ever feel like a plastic bag drifting through the wind, wanting to start again? Do you ever feel so paper thin, like a house of cards, one blow from caving in? Do you ever feel already buried deep, 6 feet under screams, but no one seems to hear a thing? Do you know that there's still a chance for you, 'cause there's a spark for you? Now here we go into the pre-chorus, listen to it lift. You just gotta ignite the light and let it shine just on the night, like a 4th of July chorus. Baby, you're a firework. So it just walks you, literally walks that melody up a ladder into the chorus. And so that takes us to our chorus. Our chorus is the big idea. Our chorus is the sing-along, the big picture. Usually the chorus is lifted in melody above the rest of the song because it's where the energy is the biggest. That's where you want everybody to start waving their lighter and singing. One of my favorite songwriters that inspired me to become a songwriter, her name is Matresa Berg, and she likes to say that she writes the verses for herself and the choruses for everyone else. So it's that big picture thing. Now, sometimes in contemporary country music or pop music, we will have something after the chorus that's called a post-chorus, or shortened to a post. And that is really just a sing-along moment that happens after each chorus. There's a good example of that in the Sugarland song Stuck Like Glue. So you remember the chorus is, there you go, making my heart beat again, heart beat again, heart beat again. There you go, making you feel like a kid. Won't you do it one time? A little more chorus. There you go, pulling me right back in, right back in, right back in. And I know I'm never letting go. I'm stuck on you, post. Whoa, whoa, stuck like glue. You and me, baby, we're stuck like glue again. Whoa, whoa, stuck like glue. You and me, baby, we're stuck like glue. So it does that little extra part where the chorus is finished, and it does that little sing-along part at the end. That's a post-chorus. Then you may have just a little melodic turnaround. It can be just a moment. It can be a progression through your chords. And then you go into verse 2. Now, verse 2 is going to be the same kind of structure, generally the same rhyme scheme as verse 1, but you're going to be introducing new information. So usually what verse 2 will do, it will answer the question, and then what? Or what happened to get us here? Or what's another way of looking at this? So you never want to recycle the same information in verse 2 that you gave in verse 1. You want to take the listener somewhere new to keep them interested. Verse 2 can be sometimes half as long as verse 1 if you had a long first verse. And if you had a pre-chorus, you may use that pre-chorus again, but often we just skip it completely. And we go on to chorus 2. So a good example of verse 2 sort of giving some new information, taking you to a new time, moving forward, is in, let's see, Garth Brooks, Friends in Low Places. So First verse, blame it all on my roots. I showed up in boots and ruined your black tie affair. So that's in the past. I showed up and here I am. You know, it just happened a minute ago. Here I am. Then you have your chorus. And then verse 2 is, well, I guess I was wrong. I just don't belong. But then I've been there before. Everything's all right. I'll just say goodnight and I'll show myself to the door. Hey, I didn't mean to cause a big scene. Just give me an hour and then I'll be as high as that ivory tower that you're living in. So moving forward in time, right? Here's what's going to happen next. So that's a great example of a verse 2. So we go back to our chorus. Then we have maybe a solo, maybe a bridge. The bridge is also known in Europe, if you're ever writing with someone from Europe, as the middle 8. So if they ever say, we need a middle 8, then you'll know that they're talking about a bridge. A bridge is also known as the bane of the songwriter's existence, because by the time you get to writing your bridge, usually you've got your 2 verses in your chorus, and you've said a lot of stuff. And then you go, what am I going to do for this bridge? But sometimes you just feel like you need one because the song needs a break in the melody, or it needs some kind of additional information. So the bridge needs to bring in something new. It can sometimes be a bigger picture thing. It can be like, the moral of the story to everything I have told you so far is blah. It could be that. It could be shining a ray of hope in a song. If it's a song that has a lot of angst or sadness in it, maybe it needs a ray of hope, and this is the ray of light that you're going to present for the listener to hold on to. Like in We Are the World, the bridge, when you're down and out and there seems no hope at all, if you just believe there's no way we can fall. Let us realize that change will only come when we stand together as one. Chorus, we are the world, we are the children, right? So it kind of took you into a new place melodically, a chord change, and shone a ray of hope. Now, the other thing that a bridge can do is it can break up the melody with sort of an ooh-ah chanty thing, very similar to the post-chorus that we were looking at. Post-choruses are kind of like bridges that are just stuck in at the end of every chorus. But your bridge, if you wanted to do, a chanty kind of thing, well, think about Eric Church Springsteen, right? When I think about 17, da-da-da-da. When I think about you and me, I think about 17, da-da-da. That's the chorus, right? And then the bridge is whoa, 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 whoa. Whoa, 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 whoa. So it's like just this whoa, whoa sing-along that happens a couple of times. Now, the other option that you can do is if you did not use your pre-chorus in the second verse, if it hasn't been worn out on the listener's ear yet and they've only heard it once, you can bring that back as your bridge, sometimes with exactly the same lyric or sometimes with a slightly different lyric. One song that does a really good job of that is Wrecking Ball by Miley Cyrus. So they have that, don't you ever say, I just walked away, I will always want you. And that happened before, I came in like a wrecking ball. So that happened at the end of the first verse. And then you go through this whole thundering, big chorus, big song, da-da-da-da. And then you can come right back down to, don't you ever say, I just walked away, I will always want you. And it's just this really beautiful, sort of vulnerable moment that comes back in. And then, I came in like a wrecking ball, and the last chorus hits again. Okay, so that's your bridge. Then you're into your final chorus. Occasionally, you might alter the final chorus a little bit. It's always fun to just throw in a little bit of melodic difference to just make it more exciting. Just hit a high note just for a second, or just alter the melody slightly, not too much. It still needs to be recognizable and sing-alongable for everyone. And you can also change the lyric a little bit in that last chorus if it feels right to do it. Or you can add a second half to it and change the lyric, give it a moral of the story, or move it forward in time, that kind of thing. And then at the very end of your song, you may have a tag. And a tag is just a little lyrical line or two that goes at the end. And often the tag sort of bookends what was at the beginning of the song. So if you think about the Mariah Carey Boyz II Men song, One Sweet Day, they start the song with, sorry, I never told you all I wanted to say. And then it goes into this, all I wanted to say to you was blah, 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 blah. Big song. And then at the very end, it comes back to, sorry, I never told you all I wanted to say. So it kind of leaves you on this, oh, that breaks my heart. It didn't get said. And it reminds you that all this stuff they just said didn't get said. So sometimes returning to the first couple lines can be really impactful when you hear it sort of with a new perspective after hearing the song. So moving forward, basic song structures. This will also be, hang in with me if you are like, I know all this already, because we're going to get into some cool stuff. So basic song structures. The one that we just talked about was called verse-chorus form. So that is A, B, A, B. So verse, chorus, bridge being a C part, and then chorus going back to a B part, if you'd have a bridge. But there's also another structure, which is verse-refrain form. This is a refrain is a line that happens at the end of a verse, and it happens multiple times in a song. So it's kind of like your hook, right? Your title, your hook is your refrain. It's a repetitive phrase reappearing throughout the song, really kind of instead of a chorus. So your chorus, in a verse-refrain form, your chorus might not even have the title or the hook in it. Your chorus can also be called a B section. It's just a break in the melody, something different. So a good example of a song like this is What a Wonderful World. So the title, What a Wonderful World, that's the hook. It is delivered at the end of every verse. I see trees of green, red roses too. I see them bloom for me and you. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world, right there in the verse. Now a second verse. I see skies of blue, clouds of white, the bright blessed day, the dark sacred night. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. There's your refrain again. And then here's your B section chorus. The colors of the rainbow, so pretty in the sky, are also on the faces of people passing by. I see friends shaking hands, saying, how do you do? They're really saying, I love you. The hook didn't appear anywhere in that, did it? So that's the B section chorus. And then back to, I hear babies cry, I see babies cry, I watch them grow. They'll learn much more than I'll ever know. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. So there's your what a wonderful world is your refrain. So that's verse-refrain form. Okay, so moving forward, step one in your songwriting process, your lyric. Now, there are different ways to write songs. Sometimes they come out of the sky and they're a piece of some other part of the song. Sometimes they come from the melody. They can come in all different ways. But I would say that when I'm going to the office to write a song 5 days a week, my whole life, 90+% of the time that we're writing a song, it starts with the hook, which is your title. We'll carry around our little hook books and we'll keep our titles stockpiled, and then we can talk about what title are we going to write today? What song are we going to write today? So you'll start usually from your hook, and your hook is really what the whole song hangs on, which is why it's called a hook. It's the hook that the song hangs on. The thing that we need to figure out is what to do with that hook, right? So before you start, talk about the hook. Think about the hook. Think about all the different ways that that phrase or word could be used. Positive, negative, up-tempo, ballad, female, male, all the different ways it could be used. Turn it all around in your head. Talk about it with your co-writer. And then once you've decided on what direction you want to go with the song, you can think about how to structure that hook. Now, the bookend is an example of putting the hook at the beginning of the chorus and then bookending it again at the end. So if your hook is a phrase or a word that feels like it could start the chorus, like it's strong enough to just boom right there at the top of the chorus to say it, then you can use it as a bookend. You could even just use it at the beginning, but usually if it's at the beginning, it's also appearing at the end. So that's bookend. Now, whoops, I need to go backwards. So if you have a hook that feels like a punchline, if it needs some setup and then the hook is the punch in the jaw that is going to be like, bam, ooh, I didn't see that coming. Or if it answers something, if it answers a question, if it needs a setup line to be given context, then it's not going to start the chorus, right? Your hook needs to fall at the very end of the chorus as the punchline. Now, if you're doing a punchline structure with your hook, then you want to work backwards from the rhyme of the hook to figure out what that setup line could possibly be. So if you need a place to get your foothold in the song and start working, you can start at the hook, figure out what the rhyme is, figure out what the setup line is to make the hook work, and you've got the last two lines of your chorus, and you can work backwards from there. I know it feels backwards to write that way, but often we will do that because, of course, your rhyme scheme is really important and your hook is landing at the end of the song and you need to figure out how to make it feel right to the listener's ear, and usually that is by rhyming it, setting it up with a rhyme. Now, refrain form, what we just talked about. If your hook has a ton of possible ways that it can be used, if it, like What a Wonderful World, how many examples are there of how wonderful this world is? I can understand why they chose to write that song that way and use the hook as a refrain. So if the hook has a lot of different ways it can be used, or if it has a lot of different ways to be punchlined, I would consider using it as a refrain, with the caveat that you're going to need to rhyme that hook every time, and you're going to need to figure out a fresh rhyme for it every time. So the rhyming factor is something that can limit that too if it's a really hard thing to rhyme. But that's, what you decide about what to do with your hook. That's the next step. So, okay, the blueprint. Now, I know a lot of this seems very cerebral, and maybe you're the kind of writer that just wants to be stream of consciousness, and I am often that kind of writer. Don't let this get in your way, okay? Just let it flow, and then you can look at it afterwards and edit it and make sure it's right. Don't let this interrupt your flow. But if you are constructing a song on demand from a hook, then you have a limited amount of time, you have somebody in the room with you, you have an artist in the room with you, any of those situations where you need to be building a song and it's just not naturally flowing, these are the ways that you can make it happen, okay? So blueprinting a song is something that we will often do once we've figured out what the hook's going to be, where it's going to fall, how it's going to be used. We kind of know what the theme of the song is going to be. So then we blueprint the song. We figure out what is each section of the song going to say in one sentence. Now, this is not what's actually going to be in the lyric. This is the main idea of each section. Now, why is it good to do this? Well, first of all, it's important because you need to communicate to your co-writers to be on the same page when you're working on the nitty-gritty of the little lines and phrases. You want to make sure that you're all aiming for the same thing. So if you know what the theme is of the section that you're working on, what you're trying to say overall, then you can find all of this information, pull all this information in from everyone that's all on the same page. So that's why it's helpful to do this. And it's also helpful to do this if you're trying to deliver the hook in a really powerful way. It's like, what would deliver this chorus in the best possible way? How do I support this? Well, the first verse could be about X. The second verse could be about Y. So each section of your song needs to say something new. Like I said earlier, you don't want to recycle the same stuff because you already said it. And it's precious real estate in a song. You don't have that many lines, so you might as well make each one of them count and say something new and interesting and fresh, but that still relates and stays on point for what you're trying to say with your hook. Yes, and for communication and collaboration. So an example of blueprinting a song. Marty Dodson, who runs Songtown here in Nashville, is a hit songwriter who wrote the song I Must Be Doing Something Right by Billy Currington. And he talks about the blueprint that he and his co-writer used when they were writing the song. So the first verse, they decided to say, women are hard for men to understand. And they said that by saying, a woman is a mystery, a man just can't understand. Sometimes all it takes to please her is the touch of your hand. And other times you've got to take it slow and hold her all night long. Heaven knows there's so many ways a man can go wrong. So that all says that, right? Then the chorus, the blueprint is, I must be doing something right because I'm getting good feedback. So the chorus is, I must be doing something right. I just heard you sigh. You leaned into my kiss and closed those deep blue need you eyes. Don't know what I did to earn a love like this, but baby, I must be doing something right. So there's a bookend chorus, must be doing something right, at the top and at the bottom of the chorus. And the whole thing says, I must be doing something right because I'm getting good feedback. It stays on that topic, right? But says it, every line says it in a new way. Verse 2, their blueprint was, show me how to love you even better. So verse 2 was, anywhere you want to go, baby, show me the way. I'm open to suggestions, whatever you say. Tonight's about giving you what you want, whatever it takes. Girl, I hope I'm on the right road. But judging by the smile on your face, goes back into the chorus, I must be doing something right. So that's blueprinting a song, and that can be very helpful when you're working in collaboration with someone, or if you're trying to support a hook in the best way possible. But like I said, you can always stream of consciousness. Don't let all of the overthinking get in your way. There's nothing worse than paralysis by analysis stopping you from creating. So just let it flow. See what comes out. Trust your instincts and follow that. If it's coming in, let it come in. Don't stand in its way. And figure out what it is later, because that stuff is gold. So don't pass up that opportunity to let that come through. Okay, now the specifics. The specifics of how we're going to construct the lyric. Now that we've got the hook, we've got the structure of the hook, we've got the blueprint in mind. Well, first of all, aim towards the hook. I cannot tell you how many times I've been submitted songs for critique that do not support the hook with every line. If you listen to any song that's on the radio, any song that is written by an amazing songwriter, you will find that every aspect, every line of the song says something that gets you to that hook. It says something that supports that hook. And some of them are works of art with the way that they support the hook. So always think about that. If you're meandering around, think about your blueprint. Think about how, because that blueprint is helping you support that hook, right? So that's what you think about to make every line stay on topic and on point. Freshness. We always want to hear something new that we don't know already with every line. New information. Don't reuse thoughts. Don't say the same thought 47 different times. Try to give new information. Even if you are talking about the same metaphor or whatever, find a new way of saying it that's interesting with each line. And don't reuse words is another thing. That is a tricky one. That's another thing that comes up a lot in conversation when people are submitting songs for critique. Quite often I will see the same word, love, the same word, kiss. Those words will reappear over and over in different parts of the song, and not really on purpose. And that is something that will always be pointed out to you in a critique if you submit a song that has the same word used elsewhere, especially if it's a word that's in your hook. If you have a song called, My Daddy's Truck, and you're talking about, it was a truck that was da-da-da, it was this kind of Ford truck, it was a da-da-da-da, and it was my daddy's truck. It's like you've already used the word truck so many times that you've diluted the power of that word by the time you hear it in the hook. So you want to save those special words, save those nouns, those important words, for using only once. And we spend a lot of time in the writing room sitting and racking our brains to find other ways of saying love, or kiss, or any of the things that we've already said. You can use there's a really great website called Rhyme Zone. You can use, or not Rhyme Zone, Synonym Finder. Go to Synonym Finder. You can look that up. You can look up Reverse Dictionary. One Look Reverse Dictionary is a really fantastic place where you can put in a word and find out all sorts of other words that relate to it. Just spend some time searching and digging to find a different word so you don't reuse the same word. Furniture. Now, a lot of you have probably heard this term before. Furniture is a term that songwriters love to use. We use it all the time. And when we talk about furniture, we mean specific nouns that you use in your lyric writing. So, for instance, you could say makeup, or you could say mascara. What is more specific? Mascara, right? You could say drink, or you could say Johnny Walker Red. Johnny Walker Red is more specific, and it's more interesting because it puts a really specific image in your mind. When you think makeup, it could be anything. When you think mascara, you're thinking of a specific thing. So when you put furniture in a song, those nouns, it's like you're painting the picture. It's what are you seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting? You need to show the listener how to feel. Don't just tell them how you feel or tell them how to feel. You need to show them the things that make them feel it themselves instead of you telling them how to feel. Does that make sense? So think of it as your song lyrics. When you put furniture in your song lyrics, it's like you're creating Polaroids. Every line is a little Polaroid that's landing on a pile. Here's a Polaroid of this, a Polaroid of that. Now, I have a good example of this. You know the song Tequila by Dan and Shay? The chorus of that song has some really interesting furniture in it. It has some interesting nouns, and they're quirky and weird and cool, and that's what makes it interesting to your ear. So here's the chorus. When I taste tequila, baby, I still see you cutting up the floor in a sorority t-shirt, the same one you wore when we were sky high in Colorado. Your lips pressed against the bottle, swearing on a Bible, baby, I'd never leave you. I remember how bad I need you. When I taste tequila, post na 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 na. There's the post chorus. When I taste tequila, na 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 na. So there's a lot of furniture in there. You've got the tequila, specific drink. You've got the sorority t-shirt, Colorado. You've got the bottle, lips pressed against the bottle. It's an image, it's a Polaroid. Swearing on a Bible, I'd never leave you. Polaroid image, showing, not telling. Here's what that chorus could sound like if it didn't have that stuff in it. Sometimes when I'm drinking, that's when I start thinking back to when you were dancing and all the other things that happened. There was another time and place, but it feels like yesterday. I thought that it would last forever. I wish that we were still together. Sometimes when I'm drinking, it just falls flat, doesn't it? It tells you how the singer is feeling, but it doesn't show. When you show, you take that listener there, you let them experience it so they own their own feelings, and you don't have to just give them yours. Does that make sense? So that's what furniture is. So now we're going to get into the nitty-gritty of the lyrical tools. There are some really cool lyrical tools. These are the things that you do on a micro level with each line to make your line really cool and interesting. These are the things that will be a little bit paralyzing if you're trying to do them all at once and just absorb all this and think about it and put it all in your writing right now. But if you listen for these things in songs and become aware of them in songs, then you will start to use them in your songwriting more instinctively. And often with the co-writers that I'm working with on Music Row, we are coming up with these things naturally, instinctively. It just feels right. We know that it feels right when we come up with this. And then we look at it afterwards and go, oh, that's because we used this tool there. But it wasn't like we were thinking we have to use this tool. when we were doing it. So it becomes an instinctive thing that you internalize. Metaphor. Making a comparison. One of the kings of metaphor is the songwriter Tony Arata, who wrote The Dance. I could have missed the pain, but I'd have had to miss the dance. What a metaphor that is. He's talking about life, right? He's talking about if I could go back and see how it was going to end, if I knew that, I probably wouldn't have chosen it, and I would have missed the dance. The dance is life. Another one of his that I love is this one, that handful of dust, sums up the richest and poorest of us. True love makes priceless the worthless, whenever it is added to these handfuls of dust. What a metaphor. Isn't that beautiful? So our lives, our humanity, our human beings are handfuls of dust. And the whole song is based on that metaphor. So the use of metaphors is just a really cool way of saying something that we all kind of already know, but in a brand new way, where it'll just make the listener go, I never thought of it like that. And that gives it a whole other angle. So metaphor, step 1. Step 2, anaphora. Anaphora is when you start each line or each phrase with the same word or set of words. An example of that: every breath you take, every move you make, every smile you fake, every claim you stake, I'll be watching you. So every breath you take uses anaphora. That is repetition. There's a lot of repetition things that we're going to be talking about here. Different ways of repeating things, because the repetition is what makes your head kind of, it makes it stick in your ear. Now, I know I just finished saying don't repeat words, but when I was saying don't repeat words, I meant don't repeat words unless it's on purpose. Okay, so if it's on purpose like this, if it's purposeful and it's falling in the same spot, there's a pattern to it, then that's what's going to make it cool. That's what's going to make it memorable. The next one is parallelism. So parallelism is when similar word pattern is similar to anaphora. Anaphora is the same word at the beginning of every line. Parallelism is when similar word patterns happen over and over again within a line or a few lines. Good example of that is the song Marcy by Joni Mitchell. Marcy's faucet needs a plumber. Marcy's sorrow needs a man. So you got Marcy and needs a, and it's the same structure of each line. So it just has that, even just reading that, doesn't it make you feel good? It's like, bam, it's like some kind of a cool jigsaw puzzle that fits together really well. So that's parallelism, and we'll use that a lot. And you can tell, like, when you hear something like that, you hear it and you know that it feels right, right? Parallelism is what it is. But you don't have to think about it so hard once you kind of internalize that, what that is. Alliteration, another repetition, another style of repetition. So this is the repetition of letter sounds, the same letter sound over and over in a line. So I love Helplessly Hoping by Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young. This song is like a masterclass in lyrical tools. Now, it's very poetic, but you can take this song apart and study it. It has so much stuff in it. That's amazing. So Helplessly Hoping. Let's see. So stand by the stair. That's the essence, right? Stand by the stairway. You'll see something certain to tell you. Confusion has its cost. So cost is confusion cost, right? Love isn't lying, it's loose in a lady else who lingers, saying she is lost. So we've got the stand by the stairway, you'll see something certain to tell you, confusion has its cost. Love isn't lying, it's loose in a lady who lingers, saying she is lost. So there's your alliteration, the reusing the same letter. Another example of that is, when I find myself in times of trouble, Mother Mary comes to me. So it can be subtle, right? That's not as much of it. It's not as in your face, but it's in that line. It's in there. Okay, assonance and internal rhymes. This is a really big one. If you start listening to the radio, you can pick these out everywhere. And it's so satisfying when people are really good at this. And there are some artists and some writers who are really good at this. This is repeating vowel sounds in positions where it's not necessary to rhyme. So you have your rhyme spots, your, A-A-B-A or your A-A-B-B or whatever it is. At the end of your line usually is where those important rhyming spots fall, right? But internal rhymes are when things inside the lines rhyme with each other. And it's not really necessary, but it's just extra. And that's what makes things really cool. So let's see. I have an example. And another thing about this is you can often find within the phrases places to rhyme internally that are parallel in pattern. So if the lines rhyme in the same, if they fall in the same rhythm, it's just like if you looked at it all like a diagram and you put those rhymes in the same spots, then it feels right. There's a rightness to it. So here's an example. Walker Hayes had the single "You Broke Up With Me," right? So here's his chorus. Let's see. I'm gonna actually do up higher here. Okay, so. Darling, you can't crash my party with your sorries and what always. Don't start raining on my Mardi Gras parade for a minute. I ain't even fixing to listen to your guilt trip and you're forgetting, girl, you made your bed and didn't want me in it. So how is that for some internal rhyming? You can't crash my party with your sorries and what are we's. Don't start raining on my Mardi Gras parade for a minute. I ain't even fixing to listen to your guilt tripping. You're forgetting, girl, you made your bed and didn't want me in it. So you could have written that without those, and it would still rhyme in the places that it needed to, but it would sound like this. Darling, you can't crash my party with apologies, 'cause I won't let you ruin all the fun I'm having, not for a minute. Tell me what you want to, but you know I won't be listening. Remember that you made your bed and didn't want me in it. Not as cool, is it? Not as cool. These are the tips and the tricks that make each line just feel instinctively right. So there it is. Sorry, I didn't pull it up, but you can't crash my party. Sorries and what are we's. You can see it there. The pattern of it. Okay. Next, opposites. Again, a pattern thing, right? The use of opposites. If you can find a way of saying what you want to say that incorporates opposite words, it feels really cool. Examples. I ain't bad at being good, but I'm good at being bad. That was in one of my songs. This old halo won't stay on. So I ain't bad at being good, but I'm good at being bad. Since you left, I don't feel right. That's one I just made up. But, it's the opposites. It just is a cool way of saying something that incorporates that pattern. Plays on words. So if you can play with words and make something kind of, smart and interesting, then that's another way of making a line cool. So I'm using an example, I think, from one of my songs here. This is, the more your heart breaks, the more it's hard to have faith, but believing in this 90 proof is easy. So it's a song about drinking, and I'm saying believing in this 90 proof is easy. Now, believing, it talks about faith and proof, right? They say that having faith is believing in something without proof. And you say, but believing in this 90 proof is easy. So the 90 proof whiskey. It's just a play on words. And you find those in a lot of places in country songs as well. Now our last little tool here is called onomatopoeia. You can pull this word out and show it off at a party. So onomatopoeia is when the melody echoes the meaning of the words. So sometimes if you have a song that's about flying, you'll have a melody that goes up and flies. So it's just something that just paints your words into the melody. So let's see, an example. Again, helplessly hoping, helplessly hoping. There are some lines of this one, Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young. So, helplessly hoping her harlequin hovers nearby. Did you hear that, hovers? Harlequin hovers nearby. The word actually hovered. Wishing she could fly. So they're singing like, wishing she could fly. I can just picture the flying. Only to trip at the sound of goodbye. So it has trip. It's like you're tripping, right? Another good example of this is The Circle Game by Joni Mitchell. And the seasons, they go round and round, and the painted ponies go up and down, up and down. So it's just painting, onomatopoeia, painting your word meaning into your melody. All right, now we have some what not to do's. And some of these what not to do's have been used in commercial songs, but they are the exception to the rule, because usually when you do these things, your song will not get cut. Number 1, twisting the lyric to fit. There are different ways that people do this. Putting the emphasis on the wrong syllable. If you're putting the emphasis on the wrong syllable, you are forcing your words into a place that does not fit. It's worth taking the time to rethink and finding a way that it will actually sound natural, because melodies have emphasis in them inherently. And when you are saying words, they have emphasis. Make sure those match up in your melody. An example of a really famous hit song that did this, and I cannot stand it, but it was a hit, but it was also written by the person who released it. It was a Katy Perry song called Unconditional. And the chorus is like, I heard it the first time and I just about choked. So it's unconditional, unconditional. It's like unconditional. And it took me a long time to figure out what she was saying. Unconditional, what's that? And it's unconditional. Unconditional. That's probably how I would have done it, but then I'm not Katy Perry, so she had a hit, what can I say? But for the most part, just try to make your emphasis fall in the right spot. Backwards phrasing is another way people twist their lyrics to fit. It's like Yoda talk, right? So in love are the two of us. If you need to rhyme with us, then maybe you say, so in love are the two of us. But that's not how you actually speak, and it's just weird when you have to, so try to avoid twisting things around. And honestly, if you're trying to get a rhyme and you have to turn it backwards and it's not the way that you would really say it, and it sounds like Yoda, it's just not good enough. You got to spend more time. You got to spend more time and focus on it longer. And there's nothing wrong with spending an hour looking to try to find the right line to go there that will rhyme. There's nothing wrong with that, because that's what will take your song to the next level. And we do that a lot when we're writing in Nashville. We'll sit there and we will obsess over one word or one line for long periods of time. And then there'll be a spurt and we'll have this and that and come out. And then we'll get stuck on another thing and we'll obsess and we'll look up rhymes and we'll just try to figure out other ways of saying it. It's worth investing the time to get it right. The next no-no is confusing the listener. So mixing persons in your song. You're singing, I'm so in love with her, yeah, she's amazing. I love you in the chorus. I love you, you're amazing. It's like, wait, she? You? Which one are you singing about? Is it two different people? What? So you need to make sure that you are consistent with the persons of the song that you're talking about. Is it third person? Are you singing about her? Are you singing about him? Or are you singing about you? And when you're singing about you, are you saying, I love you, you're amazing? Or are you mixing that with the, hey, do you ever do this? Or do you ever feel like this? Isn't it crazy how you blah, 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 which is the general you guys, So just think about what you're using there with your persons and don't mix those up. Mixing tenses is another thing people do. They'll have a song that says, tonight when I go to bed, I can't stop thinking about you. Wait a minute, what? Tonight when you go to bed, you won't be able to, or you can't now. And so make sure that your tenses don't change in the song unless it's on purpose. Don't mix those tenses up. Jumping in voice. So this is changing the character that the singer is playing. You could, if you have a first verse where the singer is a little girl, and then you have a second verse where the singer is a grown man, well, you're going to have some splaining to do to make sure that the listener understands and follows with you on that. And if you're jumping in voice without giving it really good context, then it's going to be, it's not going to come across properly. And the listener will just be confused. So, okay, the next one, mixing metaphors. Mixing metaphors. I have done so much of this in my life. Early in my life, I did a lot of mixing metaphors. Now, you can do different metaphors as long as they're sort of in the same ballpark. So if you're singing about water, you can sing about rain and sing about, tears and sing about whatever, a glass of water. Do all this stuff, but keep it in the same ballpark. Once you start saying, you're sweeping me away in your river, and I'm burning for you, that's mixing metaphors. Are we in a river or are we on fire? Because that's two totally different things. So just watch your metaphors, make sure that they're in the same ballpark, that you're not just throwing all different ones in there from different fields and confusing your listener, because nothing will pull you out of a song like that will. Being lazy. I know I've mentioned this already. Using filler words. So using filler words. If you are trying to make something fit in a line and you have to use a whole bunch of it's really very almost kind of like that. Really very just. Those kinds of words. Unless it's, something that's a very purposeful rhythmic thing, then it's just filler words. And you can find other ways to use that real estate better. Also, like I mentioned earlier, reusing words. So multiple use of the same words is a no-no unless it's on purpose because you're using it for an aphora or something like that. Okay. Losing relatability of the song. So when you are writing a song and your listeners are in the song and they're feeling it, the last thing you want is for them to go and get pulled out of the song because they hear something that feels weird or wrong or that just grabs their attention away. And a sure way of doing that is to mention fads in your song. I was looking her up on Facebook. Well, 5 years from now, when somebody's listening to that and we've got, Pocket Watch as our new app. And it'd be like now someone going, oh, I looked you up on MySpace and you sure look good. Let's not mention those things unless we absolutely have to in a song because it really is going to date your song. Facebook, Twitter, even like singing about a playlist on your phone or something like that. Who knows how long we're going to have those things? Technological stuff, pop culture stuff. You just have to be careful with that because it will date your song. And often it takes years for a song to be recorded. So you want your song to still stay strong and relevant through all that time. Making the singer unrelatable. This is our last little what not to do. Making the singer unrelatable. So this is important for commercial music. You want your singer to be somebody that the listener likes, at least, or can like. You don't want your singer to be an unapologetic butthead. You don't want your listener to listen to the song and be thinking, God, this person would drive me crazy. I don't have any compassion for this person. So you can, as the singer in the voice of the song, you can be wrong, you can be flawed, but you just have to do it in a way that makes you relatable. So don't be unapologetically a butthead in the voice in your song. Don't lambaste the listener. That's another thing. I hate you. You suck. You could be singing to a person that you hate who sucks that did you wrong, But when you're singing that, the listener is the one who's hearing it. And it sounds like you're telling them, I hate you, you suck. So you have to kind of temper that anger a little bit and just like try not to do it in a way where it would aim right at the person you're singing to. And try not to offend the listener. Because, you know, a lot of the time, well, okay, this is a country music thing. We have a sort of expectation of what's okay and what's not okay in terms of sexuality in our songwriting. So there are very different rules in pop music. Obviously, if you go and listen to some rap music, if you go and listen to WAP, which is a huge song, I cannot play that when my children are in the car, but I'll jam on it in the car. But, you know, these are things that different genres have different rules about. But definitely in country songwriting, often we will flirt with really sexual stuff and just see how far we can go, but not be really like, ugh, about it. So just like play with that line if you want to. Okay, let's see. And also, when you're writing commercial songs, think about, if it's for country radio and you're trying to pitch it for country radio, think about who your target is. Is it a guy who's going to sing it? If so, would a guy sing a song about being really angry and hating a woman? Not so much lately. Probably not. If it's a girl that's going to sing it, would she sing a song about being codependent and needing you so much and being nothing without you and being so weak? Probably not. And those things change with time, but those are things that you need to listen to your genre to be aware of. When you're pitching things, just be aware of what that voice sounds like of the person that's in the song. I know I'm throwing a lot of information at you. Please don't be overwhelmed by all this. It's just stuff to watch and listen for when you're listening to your music and consuming music, and then it will find its way into yours. Okay, I'm just going to show you a few of these advanced techniques, and then we'll wrap up. This is my favorite part. So, extensive use of furniture. So I'm going to do something that's kind of, egotistical here, and I'll share one of mine, but this is one that I'm really proud of. This is a song that that I wrote that used just a lot of furniture in it, and I didn't really think about it at the time, but afterwards I was like, this is a lot of furniture, this is cool. So the blueprint for verse 1 was, I wanted to show the listener a little girl without saying little girl. And the song title, the hook is Tippy Toes. And I knew that I wanted Tippy Toes to bookend the chorus. And I thought, Tippy Toes, okay, I want the first verse to be a little girl, but I don't want to say little girl. And I don't want to say there was a little girl. I want to say things that show the listener that it's a little girl instead of telling them. So here we go. Twinkle, twinkle, little star, once upon a time in hide and seek, hang upside down from the monkey bars, tag you're it and you can't catch me, crooked picture crayon name, freeze that moment in a frame, Tippy Toes, dressed up like a princess, hair in bows, barefoot in the kitchen, round she goes, barely staying on the ground, Tippy Toes. Okay, verse 2. I want her to be a teenager now. Okay, so here's what I did. Revlon red and skinny jeans, messy room, sleeping late. Can I have the car keys, please? Turns out, football games and that first date. Turns out it's true what they all say. Blink your eyes and it's all changed. That line shows that it's the same person. From Tippy Toes, dressed up like a princess, hair in bows, barefoot in the kitchen, around she goes, barely staying on the ground, and now it's Tippy Toes, sneaking down the hall thinking you don't know, but you already feel her letting go, and nothing's gonna slow them down, those Tippy Toes, right? So you can see there extensive use of furniture and what that looks like. Nouns, 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 Polaroid picture after Polaroid picture falling on the pile to show people how to feel. And not a whole lot of explanation, just a few lines that were needed. Okay. The next advanced technique. Multiple syllable rhymes. Okay, so what do we got here? There we go. Ooh, I love this one. Multiple syllable rhymes. Old Dominion. Listen to some Old Dominion songs. You are going to hear some serious multiple syllable rhymes. And this is when you rhyme not just one syllable of the word, but multiple syllables. And you can make other words, you can combine other words to match it to make the rhyme. So a great example of this, Snapback by Old Dominion. Yeah, there we go. Strictly out of curiosity, what would happen if you got with me? Kissing you would hit the spot with me. Come on, skip a couple rocks with me. Give me any of your heart tonight. Ain't no reason that we need to be apart tonight. I got something we can start tonight. Looking at you, girl, it's hard to fight. Those stars need to be wished on. Your skin needs to be kissed on. My eyes, baby, they're fixed on you. And your snapback. Right? Look at those rhymes. That's amazing. Curiosity, got with me, spot with me, rocks with me. It's okay that the with me is there every time because you're changing the word before it each time, and it's still within that rhyme. So it's almost like a different word each time. Heart tonight, apart tonight, start tonight, hard to fight. Wished on, kissed on, fixed on. Isn't that amazing? It's amazing. I love that. So there's a lot of multiple syllable rhyme that happens, especially in country music. But you hear a lot of rap. You can hear it in a lot of different genres. It's one of my favorite things, to make things sound really cool, like they fit. Okay, conversational tone. This is a really big one. This is one that people struggle with, even at a really high level of songwriting when they've been doing it for a long time. It is really important in country music, especially right now, that your song is written in a way that you could read it to somebody and not feel like you were being really formal or awkward with how you were saying things. It needs to be said in a way, sung in a way, written in a way that comes out of your mouth just the way it would be said, which is a real challenge. It's a real challenge. Somebody who is really good at that is Lori McKenna, the songwriter Lori McKenna. Look up some of her stuff and listen to it. She just has these ways, and she uses metaphors too, but she uses metaphors and still makes them feel like just the way you would say things to somebody. A great example, humble and kind. So you can just picture this coming right out of somebody's mouth. Don't expect a free ride from no one. Don't hold a grudge or a chip, and here's why. Bitterness keeps you from flying. Always stay humble and kind. Know the difference between sleeping with someone and sleeping with someone you love. I love you ain't no pickup line, so always stay humble and kind. Isn't that amazing how she uses metaphors? Like bitterness keeps you from flying. That's a metaphor, right? But she's saying bitterness keeps you from flying, man. Always stay humble and kind. It sounds like you would say it. Know the difference between sleeping with someone and sleeping with someone you love. I love you ain't no pickup line, so always stay humble and kind. You can picture yourself saying this to somebody and not feeling the least bit awkward about it. It's not overly formal or poetic. It's just right out of somebody's mouth. And that is a beautiful example of conversational tone. The other person that's very good at conversational tone is a songwriter named Craig Wiseman. So I would look him up and listen to some of his stuff. And this next one, this last one here, is a great example from Craig Wiseman. So balancing detail with universality. This is our last little advanced technique. So we want details, right? We want nouns. We want furniture. We want Polaroids. But we also want the listener to feel it like it's their own life, to relate to it like it's their own life. And that can be a difficult balance to strike, because if you're giving too much specific information, then maybe it's something that they don't relate to. But you gotta give enough. My dog's going crazy because the mailman's here. You gotta give enough so that it just puts a picture in their head that allows them to feel those emotions, and then they can relate to the song. So a really good example of this is Live Like You Were Dying. Craig Wiseman and Tim Nichols, cut by Tim McGraw. So look at the specifics in here. They're interesting and they're weird. They're weird furniture. I went skydiving, I went Rocky Mountain climbing, I went 2.7 seconds on a bull named Fu Manchu, and I loved deeper, and I spoke sweeter, and I gave forgiveness I've been denying. He said, someday I hope you get the chance to live like you were dying. So that's a really cool combination of detail, but also something that is a universal thought. I hope you get the chance to live like you were dying. But there's a bull named Fu Manchu. How specific is that? It's just a really nice balance between universality and specificity, detail. Okay, my last thing for you, I'm going to give you an example song, and this is one that I wrote. So again, okay, sorry, I'm being egotistical and sharing one of mine. This has never been recorded, but this is one that I looked at afterwards because I was really proud of every line of this song, and I thought, why did every line in this song feel so right? And then I realized when I started looking at it, it uses all of these different techniques that we've been talking about. And so I pointed out in each line what each technique is, and I'll play it for you. And as you're listening through, think also about the use of metaphor, because I did put that in, the hook is metaphor. Think about conversational tone. Does everything in here sound like something that you could just say to somebody right out of your mouth? And the detailed but universal, so something that is, specific, but also makes people feel something from their own lives that they relate. Okay. It's called Jack Instead of Jesus. It's a very Tennessee song. Church pews, I ain't seeing no church pews, just a long line of bar stools where they all know my name. Lately, I ain't looking through the stained glass, I'm just looking through a shot glass to take away my pain. St. Jack, St. Jim, St. Johnny Walker Black. We use Jack, sorry. The only way to keep it going is to keep on throwing it back. I've been drinking too much and not praying enough, and the whiskey's so much stronger than my weakness. I guess the more your heart breaks, the more it's hard to have faith and believe it in this 90 proof is easy. Lord, I need a way to pick up all these pieces, but I keep giving it up to Jack instead of Jesus. Quick fix, I'm just looking for a quick fix. I keep trying all the same tricks, but nothing seems to change. Did I mention I was looking for redemption? It was never my intention to end up this way, but the taste of sweet temptation's hard to fight, 'cause there's an angel on my left side, but there's a devil on my right. I've been drinking too much and not praying enough, and the whiskey's so much stronger than my weakness. See how the melody's stronger on stronger? Guess the more your heart breaks, the more it's hard to have faith, the more. And believing in this 90 proof is easy. Lord, I need a way to pick up all these pieces, but I keep giving it up. Oh, I keep giving it up. I keep giving it up to Jack instead of Jesus. So that's Jack instead of Jesus. So thank you so much for being here with me. And I just want to leave you with this. I love to say this to people. Make every word fight for its right to be in your song. It's worth it. It's worth it. It's very precious real estate. There are not very many lines to say a lot of information. So make sure it's fresh. Try to use some of these tools. Just, really be a stickler for it. Really spend the time. Go back and look at it. See if you can get that line better. It's worth it. And that will just get you to the next level in your songwriting. And it'll feel effortless to the people who listen to it. They'll go, wow, how did you do that? It just feels so smooth and effortless. But there's a lot of work that goes on in behind the scenes when you're putting lines together. So, okay, take it all in. Go listen to some music, notice these things, and then just go on and write and brainstorm it, and don't worry too much about it until you sit down to really dig in and edit, and then use some of this stuff. Thanks. I hope this has been helpful today, and please do come and visit me at victoriabanks.net if you're interested in hearing more behind-the-scenes stories and unreleased songs and stuff like that. I share that with my subscribers on my website. And all right, happy CMAO. Hopefully we can see each other in person next time. Take care.